Something happened to you, not recently, long before you had the words for it, long before you could explain it to a single person in your life. There was a moment, maybe you were a child sitting somewhere quiet, maybe it crept into a dream just last night, where you felt it, not a thought, not something you read, a feeling, like a current running just beneath your chest, like something ancient pressing gently against your ribs, whispering to you in a language that existed before language did. You are not what they told you you were. You felt that, didn't you? Because here's what I know about you, and I know this before you said a single word to me. You've been called too much, too sensitive, too deep, too complicated. You think too hard, feel too loudly, want things that make practical people uncomfortable. The world had a very simple solution for that. Come down, lower the ceiling, stop dreaming so dangerously. Be realistic, be reasonable, be manageable. And maybe for a while, you got good at pretending you had. Maybe you learned to wear the right face, say the right things, shrink yourself into spaces that were never built for you. But you never stopped watching, did you? Never stopped searching. Never fully silenced that quiet, stubborn voice that keeps telling you, this isn't it yet. This isn't all of it. That voice isn't a problem. That voice is the point. What I'm about to share with you today is not inspiration. It's not a pep talk. It's not another beautiful idea that dissolves the moment you close the tab. It is a map built from the bleeding edge of quantum physics and the oldest wisdom human civilization ever produced. From the deepest science of consciousness and the lived experience of people who, like you, were never quite at home in the ordinary world. People who spent years, sometimes decades, feeling like the tension between who they truly were and who the world needed them to be was some kind of personal failure. It wasn't. It was a signal. The clearest signal the universe knows how to send. What if everything that ever made your life feel like a quiet war? The longing, the restlessness, the persistent sense that you are almost living the life you were meant for but not quite. What if none of that was a flaw? What if it was always the design? What if you were never meant to stay on the ground? What if you were always built to fly? And what if today is the day you finally learn exactly how? Stay with me. Every section of what follows is a layer being removed. By the time we reach the end, you will not just understand this, you will feel it. In your body is the truth. It has always been. Before we go deeper, I want to say something directly to you. If you have ever sat in a quiet room and felt like the things you sense, the patterns you notice, the depth you carry inside yourself, with things that the people around you simply could not follow, then you already know why a space like this one matters. This is a space built for people exactly like you. Right now, as you watch this, there is someone else out there. Maybe they are lying awake at 3 in the morning. Maybe they've been searching for something they cannot quite put into words. They are lonely in a specific way. Not because no one is around, but because no one around them seems to understand what lives inside them. They do not know this video exists yet, but you do. If what you hear in the next few minutes touches something real in you, if it gives you even one moment of feeling genuinely seen, consider helping this message travel further. There is a link in the description below and pinned in the first comment where you can offer a small contribution. Something as simple as a cup of coffee to keep this mission alive and growing. You would not be supporting a channel, you would be sending a lifeline to a stranger you will never meet, someone who is looking for exactly what you are about to hear. And the beautiful thing is, you would never know who that person was, but they would feel it. And that moment of connection, invisible and real at the same time, is worth more than we can measure. I leave it entirely in your hands. Now let us begin. Close your eyes for a moment or do not close them. Simply notice what happens inside your body when someone asks you to imagine something impossible. There is a lift, a subtle, almost embarrassing rise of something hopeful in your chest. You may have learned to suppress it quickly, to correct it with logic, to remind yourself how the world actually works. But that lift is the most important signal you have ever received about your own nature. It means your consciousness has not forgotten what it truly is. Here is what most people are never told. Consciousness is not produced by your brain. Your brain is the instrument through which consciousness expresses itself in physical form. This distinction, subtle as it sounds, changes everything about how you understand your life. Your consciousness does not merely watch your reality unfold. It participates in constructing it. Every thought you hold consistently, every emotion you return to as though it were home, every belief you have accepted as permanent truth about yourself or the world. These are not passive passengers in your life. They are active architects. Your daily frustrations are not just passing moods. They are instructions being sent into the creative field of your experience. Your grief, your longing, your quiet and stubborn certainty that there is more to existence than what you have been handed. These are not liabilities. They are frequencies, and frequencies shape form. This is not poetry. This is the operating principle of consciousness itself. Consider what this means for the life you are living right now. Consider the staggering, humbling power you have been carrying without a proper understanding of what it is or how it works. The reason you sometimes feel heavy, the reason it sometimes feels like you are moving through something thick and resistant and invisible, is not because life is against you. It is because you are moving through a current of collective consciousness that has accumulated centuries worth of limiting agreements, beliefs held by generation after generation, passed down not with malice but with love, passed down as the best understanding of what was safe, what was real, and what was possible for a human life. They built invisible walls around what they believed you could do, not to trap you, to protect you. But those walls, however lovingly constructed, are not yours, and they are not made of anything permanent. They are made of repeated thought, and repeated thought can be met with deliberate, conscious choice. This is the foundation of everything that follows. The density you feel is not your destiny. It is inherited gravity, and gravity, even the gravity of the mind, can be overcome when you understand what is generating it. There is a distinction that very few people are ever given the language to make, but that carries the potential to fundamentally change the course of a life. The distinction between pain that belongs to you and pain that was given to you before you were old enough to examine it. Developmental psychology tells us that the foundational beliefs shaping adult consciousness are formed primarily before the age of 7, before the part of the brain responsible for critical analysis is finished developing. This means that the deepest truths most people operate from about their worth, their safety, the nature of love, what kind of person they are allowed to become, were formed at a stage when the only available response to incoming information was absorption. You took it all in without a filter. You had no choice, and much of what came in was offered with love. But love does not make information accurate. Some version of this message found you early, that the way you sense the world so deeply, that the way you feel things, others seem to glide past, that the way you carry questions that don't have easy answers was a problem to be managed, a sensitivity to be contained, a dream to be outgrown. And so you learn to carry it quietly. You learn to be practical. You learn to shrink the parts of yourself that made other people uncomfortable. You called it maturity. You called it realism. But you have never fully been able to stop dreaming. And that persistent, resilient dreaming, that absolute refusal to fully surrender to a smaller version of your life, is not delusion. It is data. The first real movement toward transcendence does not begin with a technique. It begins with an act of honest discernment, the willingness to sit with yourself and ask which of the beliefs shaping my life right now were chosen by me in full awareness, and which were installed in me by a world that, however well-meaning, could not always see me clearly. This is not blame. This is archaeology. You are not destroying what was given to you. You are sorting through it with the compassion of someone who understands that everything received in those early years came from people who were also carrying their own inherited weight. You keep what is true. You set down what was never yours to carry. And when you do this, something begins to shift. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, the way a sky clears after a long rain, and in the clarity that emerges, you begin to perceive yourself and the world around you in ways that open doors you could not even see before. In a world that demands constant opinions, instant judgments, and the confident performance of certainty, the most quietly revolutionary thing you can do is this: choose perception over judgment. These words sound similar. They are not the same thing, and the difference between them shapes everything about how you experience reality. Judgment closes a loop. It arrives at a conclusion, fortifies that conclusion against new information, and moves on. It is efficient. It is also a form of blindness. It is how people live beside each other for years and never truly see who is standing in front of them. Perception is an open system. It says, I am curious about what is actually here, beneath my assumptions, beneath my conditioning, beneath the story I was already telling before this moment began. Perception remains porous to truth. Even when truth asks something of you, it asks questions. Even when it already has answers, it continues looking even after it thinks it knows. Those who are genuinely called, the ones who feel what you feel, who sense what you sense, were wired with a naturally wider aperture than most. This is why you notice what others walk past. This is why silence speaks to you. This is why you can enter a room and feel the emotional temperature before a single word is exchanged. You are built for perception. The world somewhere along the way may have convinced you to narrow it to be more decisive, more certain, less affected, more efficient. That narrowing cost you more than efficiency will ever return. Here is a practice so structurally simple that it will seem insufficient until you use it with consistency. The next time you are in a situation that triggers a strong, immediate reaction, pause before that reaction hardens into a conclusion. Ask yourself quietly and genuinely what else might be true here, not to avoid a decision, not to live in endless ambiguity, but to ensure that what you are responding to is actually real and not the projection of a pattern that was formed decades ago and has been running your life on autopilot ever since. Applied with patience, this single practice begins to dismantle the architecture of limitation one beam at a time. And beneath that architecture, you will find something that cannot be manufactured or purchased or performed. You will find love, not as an emotion that arrives when conditions are favorable, but as a state of perception, a way of seeing that recognizes the invisible thread connecting all living things. A quality of awareness that makes the endless pursuit of gold, of status, of security through accumulation begin to reveal itself for what it has always been, a beautiful, heartbreaking attempt to find from the outside what was always available from the inside. Physics has given us the word gravity, the force that draws all things downward toward the center, toward the earth. But physics also gives us a word that receives far less attention. Levity, the upward force, the principle of rising. Levity exists not only in the physical world, but in the metaphysical one. You know this from direct experience. Even if you've never heard it named this way, you know it from the state of creative flow. Those moments when you are making something or solving something, or simply being fully present, and time dissolves and weight dissolves, and you are not trying to lift yourself, you simply are lifted. That is levity operating at the level of consciousness. Alongside levity, there is another force that modern science has named but rarely celebrated in its full depth. Negentropy, where entropy is the tendency of all systems to move toward chaos. Negentropy is the counter-principle. It is the organizing intelligence of life itself. It is what turns scattered cells into a beating heart. It is what transforms scattered thoughts into a coherent vision. It is the force that reverses disorder, builds bridges across chaos, and renews what entropy would dissolve. Both of these forces are available to you right now, not as distant achievements, as present realities waiting to be activated by the choices you make. Every time you choose creation over consumption, genuine connection over distracted presence, curiosity over the comfortable armor of certainty, you are generating upward force. You are putting yourself in alignment with the forces that lift rather than the forces that bind. The ancient Greeks called this alignment being visited by the Muses, the 9 creative intelligences that carry the soul beyond the boundaries of ordinary thought into realms of sublime transformation. The Vedic tradition called it the activation of prana, the vital life force that rises naturally when the body and spirit move in harmony. Every enduring wisdom tradition in human history has pointed toward the same reality. There is an upward current available to those who learn to align with it. And alignment is not a gift given to a select few. It is a choice made by those willing to make it consistently. You are here because you are ready to make it. There is a development in molecular biology that deserves far more attention than it has received for most of the 20th century. Scientists classified a substantial portion of human DNA as non-functional. They called it junk DNA, the silent sections of the genome with no apparent purpose, evolutionary leftovers with nothing useful to contribute. That classification is now being revised. What researchers are discovering is that these so-called silent regions are not inactive. They are responsive. They appear to be sensitive to internal states, to the emotional and energetic environment in which a human being consistently lives, to what some researchers are beginning to describe as frequency. And of all the internal states that appear to produce the most significant activating effect on these dormant biological codes, unconditional love sits at the top of the research. Not as a sentiment, as a frequency, as a state of consciousness that can be intentionally cultivated, deliberately practiced, and consistently sustained. Unconditional love is not what popular culture has reduced it to. It is not a feeling that arrives when someone treats you the way you deserve to be treated. It is a chosen state of awareness, a way of orienting toward existence that says, I will hold everything and everyone, including myself, with compassion, regardless of whether the conditions around me justify it. When you practice this, not because you have been given external reasons to, but because you choose it as a fundamental way of being, something begins to shift inside you at a level that goes beyond mood or motivation. Your nervous system reorganizes. The biological systems that regulate your capacity for healing, growth, and perception begin to function differently. The ancient number 9 holds a particular resonance in this activation. In the world's oldest spiritual traditions, 9 represents the completion of one cycle and the beginning of the next. It is the number of the spiral, the geometric form through which old growth moves. It appears in the structure of consciousness itself, and in the way energy organizes as it rises toward higher expression. The 9 muses of ancient Greece, those creative forces said to inspire the greatest works of human art and thought, were not random in their number. They represented the full activation of the creative field of consciousness, moving in all its directions at once. To begin working with this activation, start with yourself. Practice meeting your own inner experience, not with judgment, but with unconditional witness. Hold the parts of you that are still tender, still healing, still uncertain, with the same quality of compassion you would offer to someone you deeply love who is going through something hard. From that foundation of self-compassion, let the quality of unconditional awareness extend outward into your relationships, into the way you move through the world, into ordinary moments that previously seemed too small to carry spiritual weight. This is not passive. This is the most active and most sophisticated thing a human being is capable of, and its effects practiced with patience and intention are nothing less than transformational. There is a story most people learn as a warning about ambition. It is time to learn the actual lesson it contains. Icarus, son of the brilliant craftsman Daedalus, was given wings of feathers and wax so that he and his father could escape their imprisonment. His father warned him clearly and specifically, do not fly too close to the sun. The wax will melt, the wings will fail, you will fall. Icarus flew anyway, higher and higher. exhilarated by a freedom he had never experienced before. The sensation overwhelmed his judgment. The thrill overtook the wisdom, and the sun did what the sun always does, and the wings did what wax cannot avoid doing in heat, and Icarus fell. Most people receive this as a warning against wanting too much, against the danger of reaching too high. That is the wrong lesson entirely. Icarus did not fall because he flew. He fell because he stopped listening, because in the exhilaration of his own elevation, he disconnected from the wisdom that made his flight possible. He traded awareness for sensation. He let the thrill of his own power replace the discipline of his father's love. This is the most sophisticated and most subtle trap available to those who begin to genuinely awaken. When you start to sense your own expanding capacity, when you begin to feel the deepening of your perception, the activation of gifts that were always yours but are only now becoming accessible, there is a temptation that arrives dressed as progress. The temptation is to claim these gifts as evidence of your separation from others rather than as resources for your deeper connection to them. The moment your awakening becomes a story about how much further along you are than the people around you, it has already begun to betray itself. Because the point of every real expansion of consciousness is not to elevate you above others. It is to increase your capacity to serve, to love, and to see more clearly the sacred value in every living being you encounter. The heart knows this instinctively. When the heart is genuinely open, every expansion of capability feels like an increase in responsibility. More seeing means more compassion. More knowing means more gentleness. More access to the elevated means more urgency to lift those still in the valleys. The ego, operating through the intellect alone, experiences every expansion as an increase in status. And this is precisely where the wax begins to soften. Keep your flight rooted in the heart, not as a poetic instruction, but as a structural requirement. The heart is the compass. The intellect is the map. A map without a compass leads you technically, but not truly. And in the territory of consciousness, technically is never enough. Guard against pride, not by suppressing your gifts, but by continually returning their source and their purpose to love. There is a window of time that exists between the last breath of night and the first full exhale of morning. The ancient Vedic tradition gave it a name, Brahma Muhurta, the hour of the Creator. It falls approximately 90 minutes before sunrise in the final deep stillness, before the world remembers its busyness. Most people sleep through it. This is not a failure, but it is worth understanding what lives in those hours that cannot be found any other way. During this threshold time, the electromagnetic quality of the atmosphere shifts. The body, having completed its deepest cycles of cellular repair, rests at the edge of its most primal wisdom. The mind, not yet loaded with the expectations and demands of the coming day, is like a page that has not yet received a single word. And the veil between individual consciousness and the larger field of awareness is thinner in this hour than at any other point in the waking cycle. Mystics across cultures and centuries built their entire practices around this window, not as an act of discipline for its own sake, but because they discovered through direct experience that what was available in those hours was simply not available any other time. The quality of insight, of prayer, of genuine interior listening, of communion with what they understood as the divine was categorically different in Brahma Muhurta than it was at any other point in the day. The invitation is not to deprive yourself of rest. The invitation is to discover what is available to you before the world takes its first claim on your attention. In practical terms, begin simply even 10 minutes before your ordinary waking time, spent in genuine stillness rather than in scrolling or planning or anticipating, can begin to create a different quality of access. Sit with your awareness. Let your breath deepen. Set a clear and honest intention for who you want to be in the day ahead. Not what you want to accomplish, but who you want to be when you are tested. Let that intention carry the weight of your truest values rather than your current pressures. What you access in those early hours, the clarity, the spaciousness, the quiet certainty, does not evaporate when the day begins. It carries forward like an undercurrent. It colors how you respond rather than react. It gives you a kind of internal steadiness that no amount of external success can produce. This is the simplest and most ancient of the practices available to you, and it asks for nothing but the willingness to try it once. Every single night you enter a laboratory, a space in which the laws that govern your waking reality become negotiable, in which the beliefs that feel like walls dissolve, in which the limitations of your ordinary perception are suspended, and you are given access to a version of yourself and your world that your daytime mind cannot reach. That laboratory is the dream state, and most people move through it entirely on autopilot. Lucid dreaming is a learnable skill that lets you become conscious within a dream and make deliberate choices, including the choice to fly. Every time you override gravity in a dream, you train your consciousness to accept new possibilities that carry forward into waking life. Start by keeping a dream journal, practicing daily reality checks, and setting a gentle intention before sleep. In dreams, your senses break free from their ordinary limits, revealing a richer, more unified mode of perception. You can develop this in waking life too through deep sensory presence, focusing fully on one sense at a time, which strengthens neural connections and expands awareness in both sleep and waking states. You were never too much or not enough. You were built to perceive deeply, feel fully, and refuse a smaller life. Your path chose you. Use your gifts with humility. Let your growth deepen compassion rather than distance, and keep your flight rooted in love and service. If this resonated, leave a comment, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. If it genuinely moved you, a small contribution through the link in the description helps this message reach the stranger quietly, searching for it in the dark. You would not be funding a channel. You would be lighting a lantern for someone you will never meet. Your flight is not an escape from the world. It is a return to what the world was always meant to.